If you like to bake bread at home, you know that cutting loaves can be really difficult, especially if you're making a thicker crusted bread like a sourdough. Uneven and crumbly slices ruin the texture of your bread. So I tested out this manual bread slicer and a fresh sourdough loaf to see if it is actually worth the price. I tested this machine on the thin, medium, and thick settings. I also tested the stability of the unit on my countertop using the suction cup base, as well as the durability of the blade and the handle. This video will cover all the components. I'll show you exactly how to use it, and I'll give you my final opinion. This unit was gifted to me by the brand, and I was immediately struck with how beautiful this unit is. It does come in a few different color options. The base is made out of a really beautiful natural toned wood, and the components on the top are made out of really durable stainless steel, and the crank handle has a nice wooden handle that's comfortable to grip. I did really love that there's a suction cup base on the bottom of this, and the suction cups work fantastic. This thing doesn't move at all until you manually release the suction cups. It's really easy to operate. You can see that there is this knob on the right hand side, and there's this thickness guide printed right onto the wooden base. Just rotate the knob back and forward to get the exact thickness that you want. Sometimes people like a really thin slice for toasting. Other people like a thicker slice for sandwiches. You can see that when you want to release the board, you physically have to go in and release each of the 4 suction cups on the bottom. And I did test this on a couple of different surfaces in my kitchen. I do have a granite countertop in one kitchen area, and I just simply placed the board on the granite. I didn't even have to push down on the suction cups, and it adhered. On this wooden countertop here, you just push down on each of the 4 suction cups, and that puppy is not going anywhere. It's really firm. I've actually had other appliances with suction cups on the bottom, and they never work. I have an apple peeler and core with a suction cup base, and that never sticks to my countertop. It's a real hassle, so it was a real plus to see how well this one worked. I plan on leaving this out all the time on my kitchen counter. I think it's cute to look at. It's only about the size of a loaf of bread, but you could easily store this in a cupboard or pantry if you wanted to. You can use this on homemade bread of any type. I'm using a sourdough loaf here, but this would work on any type of bread. It really does well, even with a loose crumb. You can see even on this very thin slice, it doesn't crumble, it doesn't tear. You could never get this thickness with a regular serrated knife. It would just crumble in your hands. But if you had a white bread loaf, you could easily cut that with this as well. And if you don't make sourdough bread or white bread at home, you can buy these loaves at the grocery store uncut. And I like to buy them that way because when you slice them at home, they stay fresher a lot longer. There's just something about deli bread that is so superior than store-bought bread. Here's a nice thick slice that would be perfect for toasting or for a sandwich. We like to make paninis out of these. And you can notice that when I'm slicing these, there are absolutely no compression of the bread whatsoever. It doesn't get mashed by the blade at all. And look how easy it is to slide this loaf right through the blade. It's a really sharp blade, so if you have little ones at home, make sure you keep it out of reach from them. But you can see that when I push the loaf through, it barely takes any effort at all. The blade is really doing all the work here. As far as turning the crank, you want to make sure that you're turning in a clockwise direction. That way the blade will be rotating in the proper direction. And it just takes a matter of a couple of seconds to slice an entire loaf. I do like to slice one by one whenever I'm making a sandwich. Keep the rest of the bread in a sealed up container to stay fresh. When you're finished, you have a perfectly sliced loaf. Look how nice and even all these slices are. They're absolutely perfect. I can't believe I haven't tried out one of these earlier. I do love to make bread at home. And after trying it out, my family really loved it so much. We were trying to think of other things we could slice with it. Maybe even a soft cheese. We might try to experiment with that. But we've been eating a lot more fresh bread now that we have this at home. I've been into sourdough loaf making for a few years now. I have a really mature sourdough starter that's nice and tangy and makes a really beautiful loaf, but I really wasn't making them very often because I was seriously having trouble slicing them. It makes a really hard crust on the bottom whenever I make a loaf, and I would take a serrated knife and it would just tear through the bread and ruin the texture. Now, cleaning up this device is really simple too. I'm using a silicone brush here, but if you have a bristle brush, that'd probably be even better. Just brush all the crumbs off of the plate here. And then my video's a little bit fuzzy here, but what I have is a wet cloth and I'm just holding it against the blade and rotating it slowly to clean off the blade. You can actually release the blade if you want to do a deep clean. And that's all you need to do to keep it in shape. This is made out of a stainless steel, and if you take care of it properly, this really should last you a lifetime. I love that there's this really nice guide plate on the side. It's arrow shaped, it's right in front of the blade, and you press your loaf firmly against this plate. And that's how you ensure that you have a nice, even slice every single time. There's this bar on the other side that actually catches the slice after you cut it so it doesn't fall off to the side. Here's a close-up look at the base and those suction cups one more time. I'm so impressed with these suction cups. It really made a big difference because the thing doesn't slide around on the countertop when you're trying to cut your loaf. Just press each of them down. You'll hear them audibly click down. And I'm putting quite a bit of pressure on here and it's just not going anywhere. You could even do this with one hand if you wanted to cut your loaf. You're not limited by the size or shape of your loaf either. What I'm demonstrating here is probably the largest loaf you could get at a bakery. This is a large size boule, and you can see that it comes nowhere close to being too large for this unit. You're only limited by the height of that handle there, and you can see that when I am rotating the handle, the base of the bread isn't coming anywhere near that handle as it rotates. So you could use even a larger piece of bread if you wanted to, but any standard size or shape would work. After you use this a few times, you will find your favorite thickness. Some members of my family like a slightly thinner or thicker loaf, and you'll get really used to the adjustments quite quickly. And my number one tip would be just make sure that you're pressing the flat end of your loaf right against that guide plate as you slide it forward. That's really all you need to think about. Your loaf will come out perfectly sliced and the crumb will be just absolutely perfect. Your bread won't be destroyed. And this is just something really handy to have on hand if you love bakery bread or if you love to make your own bread. You're never going to get even slices like this with a knife. I'm actually regretting waiting so long to get one of these. This is going to definitely go on my top gift guide for bread makers. I'm really enjoying this unit. This is a high recommend. It's made out of sturdy, durable materials and it works great.